What if I tell you that regular exercise is good for your immune function, for your cardiovascular effects, and also, if you do it with transcendental meaning, this can also be beneficial for your soul. What if I tell you that the things that we avoid most is what the brain needs to heal? For centuries across the culture, we have done strange things. Fasting, kneeling, walking barefoot just for sacrifice. Not all can understand it. Exercise to exhaustion, meditate on suffering. What the hell? So there's so many things that have been proven in peer-reviewed literature that supports that what if, I tell you, exercise is good for your brain, and above all, if you do it with transcendental meaning, it will help your soul. Especially meditating on the unconditional love of Christ through His passion. So if you like this kind of topic, please click the like button, and now we'll proceed. Exercise had been proven, and now it's been rumored that it's good to be done for the health. But what is the basis for this? Well, let's tease it out to 4 different aspects of our health. For example, muscles. Studies have shown that if you exercise, it stimulates BDNF to help you fuel the brain to make you feel like you want to exercise more. Brain-Derived Neurotrophic Factor. The consequence is that the muscle will slightly be destroyed, stressed. But in the process of hormesis, or recovery, the muscle becomes strong. A muscle that is flexed and exercised regularly is very resilient to injury. So if you don't want to be injured, exercise regularly, especially stretching. What about metabolism? We know for the fact that in order to maintain health, we have to do something. Fast from sugar, fast from calories from time to time, or fasting. But the most important thing is that when you exercise, metabolism is increased, as we know that. But why? How is this happening? When you exercise, insulin function is improved, or what you call insulin sensitivity. So insulin is this hormone that is needed for the glucose to enter the cell, for example, the brain cell or the muscle cell. Without insulin, the glucose cannot get in. Even if you have insulin, but your insulin is lazy, kind of insulin resistant, it will not open the key or the door to the cell so that the glucose can enter, such that this glucose will remain in the serum or in the blood detected as hyperglycemia or increased blood sugar, so that this glucose is not available for the cell. For example, if the brain cell, if you're diabetic and your glucose is high, you become fatigued and you have a brain fog because the glucose is not inside the brain cell. Or if you want to walk around and use your muscle, if your glucose is still in the serum and not inside a muscle cell, this will not be able to produce energy, and that's where you feel fatigued and weak. So in essence, metabolism is increased with exercise. When you exercise, especially when you're fasting, what happens is there's tapping of new energy, not just from glucose, but the more efficient fuel, which is the ketones or the fat. As you can see, when you have glucose or sugar ingested in your body, it goes directly to the factory for the cell, for the glucose to go into where it needs to be done in terms of the processing for energy. The excess glucose will go to the liver as stored energy called glycogen. Such that when you're fasting, don't worry about fasting overnight. You'll still survive because the liver will take care of the body. Through the process of gluconeogenesis, from the glycogen source, new glucose will be formed and be a source of energy. Now, when you exercise, there's more flexibility of the body to metabolize and to look for other sources of energy. What I'm talking about is that when you exercise, it's not just the glucose that's just going to be tapped for energy, but also the fat, especially the area of the gut, the barriga, the visceral fat. So it turns on right away, easily, to metabolize the fat into fatty acids so that it can be released and be tapped as energy source, especially in the brain. That is why when you fast and when you do exercise, ketone bodies increase, and that's the best fuel for the brain. It offers mental clarity, and you learn faster too, on a different mechanism, because the BDNF, as I told you a while ago, the Brain-Derived Neurotrophic Factor, also repairs the pruning that is associated with stress. So the information or the saltatory movement of the information is transmitted faster. That's why the transmission of your brain is faster. Your thinking is better. So all these things for muscles, for the brain, it's the same like the muscles. The brain needs to be trained. That's why when you exercise, BDNF will give you the effort to inspire you to exercise. And to exercise more, the BDNF is increased more often. So do not be afraid to exercise. Take one step and the body will take care of you. What about the immune system? The immune system is benefits more with exercise. Studies have shown that when you exercise, there's increased surveillance of these white cells, or the macrophages, which kind of engulfs those foreign bodies, including virus, bacteria. It's almost like the white cells that are clinging like bats in the walls of the blood vessels. When they exercise, they shake it off and they move around like police, so that there will be increased surveillance of foreign bodies like the microbes or the bacteria and the virus, so that it easily usurps those kind of foreign bodies and not able to infect you. Moreover, the lymphocytes, which is the primary source of the antibodies, or that's the source of antibody production, also improves in quality. That means it produces more antibody, especially to the virus. Take, for example, you have these sniffles, and your tendency would be to just lie down, or during the COVID, for example. The worst thing you can do is to lie down and not exercise. You have to allow the lymphocytes and the beta lymphocytes, the T lymphocytes, especially the NK cells, the natural killer lymphocytes, to be activated so that they will look around for things that are destructive to your body. If you lie down, it will just be a perpetuating cycle of fatigue and loss of energy, and the more you will be immunocompromised in a way. So exercise is very important for immune function. What happens in the brain? The fourth one, the brain effect, and mood and memory. When you exercise, as I said, BDNF, or the Brain-Derived Neurotrophic Factor, increases. During chronic stress, cortisol, which is a stress hormone, punches the hippocampus. The hippocampus increases secretion of glutamate, which is destructive to the hippocampus. So when you exercise, the glutamate is decreased, allowing the dendrites to flourish again. The dendrites that are pruned, meaning cut off when you're stressed, it flourishes again and allows it to regrow. BDNF also allows neuroplasticity, meaning it increases the brain size, such that studies have shown that when you exercise to 80% of your maximum 60 to 80% of your maximum heart rate for 40 minutes, the hippocampal size, the size of the hippocampus increases over time. It's well fed with blood so that it flourishes. It's like fertilized with substances that are good for your brain. Remember, hippocampus is a center for joy and memory. So the effect, you'll be more happy together with the other neurotransmitters like the serotonin, GABA, and taurine. You become more calm in your brain. Now, hippocampus is a seat of memory, such that over time, when you exercise regularly, the likelihood of you having memory failure or memory loss is diminished. Exercise and your day will brighten up. Not just because seeing the visual effect, but there's a lot of things happening in the brain and also in the immune function that helps you to reward you with the effects of exercise, the beneficial effects of exercise. What about the prefrontal cortex? The prefrontal cortex is the seat of higher learning and higher decision making. When you exercise regularly, together with meditation of His unconditional love, the prefrontal cortex increases in size by neuroplasticity. So what happens? You decide better. You have more moral judgment. You can predict, you can plan out for the future and be more friendly with the environment, especially with your people around you. And your decision making is more beneficial. It's not like an impulsive decision making. So exercise and meditation also helps together with fasting, because all these things come in together to rewire your brain. What about the soul? Do you think exercise can be transcendentally be elevated to help you go to heaven? Anything that is planned and accepted, the pain that is accepted becomes a suffering. Suffering is different from just accepting pain. Suffering, if you give a meaning to that, transcends to the heaven. What Christ did, what He exemplified for us, was to accept the pain, emotional, physical pain. But what He did was, He endured suffering for the sake of love. His love for us, His unconditional love for us. Through His passion, even before He was born, even before the Virgin Mary was born, she was chosen to be the vessel of honor that He can come into the world and be part of the salvation history through His passion. What does it link with exercise? If you do a little bit of exercise and put a transcendental meaning and say, one walk today is offered for the Pope, for my soul, this is something that you would not probably been thinking. This counts persistently, consistently. This will heal your soul. Each sacrifice, not the pain, each sacrifice that you do every day for the sake of love for somebody else or for love for yourself, that you will be part of Christ's image, is part of these benefits of exercise. Take, for example, take a Rosary Walk. Here in Ave Maria, we have a Rosary Walk. It's good enough to pray the joyful, sorrowful, the glorious mystery and the luminous mysteries. It takes about 45 to 1 hour. It's what Saint Josemaria Escrivá would do, a devotion, a pilgrimage through the Rosary. It helped me solve all my problems in terms of getting to where I am right now. Coming from a Barrio boy from the Philippines and getting to the Rosary. It was a pilgrimages, countless numbers of meditations, hours of meditation. So at this point, if you like this video, please subscribe, because it will help us also transcend our being to propagate and send it to more information to other people who might want this or might need it. Subscribe and share. So in essence, exercise is not just a physical vanity. It can be transcended. It's beneficial to your health. Number one, it's good for your muscles. When you destroy the muscle just a little bit, it will recover. It's called hormesis. It increases metabolism. It improves insulin sensitivity. It increases consumption of glucose or metabolism of glucose. It makes the body more resilient and more flexible to produce a phenomenon where you're tapping the glucose, not just the glucose, but also the fat reserve that you probably don't like. Especially the visceral fat, which is so active and produces a lot of inflammation. Exercise improves immune function. It prevents common colds, believe it or not. Studies have shown that the white blood cells or the lymphocytes especially the natural killer cell, is moved and kind of recruited to the circulation so that it can go and increase the surveillance for foreign bodies, especially virus, bacteria, and fungus. It also is good for immune function because it taps the lymphocyte. It increases the quality of the lymphocyte activity. For the brain, we talk about increasing the circulation and neuroplasticity of the hippocampus that improves joy and memory. It also decreases the amygdala, the activity of the amygdala, especially during chronic stress, because the amygdala, as you know, is the center for anxiety, depression, and anger. When you exercise, serotonin goes up together with that, GABA, which calms the brain, taurine, which also calms the brain. Melatonin is also increased. That's why melatonin, which is the pill that you take for sleep, also increases, and you sleep better with exercise. And when you talk about this, your passion, your problems, and your joy in front of the Blessed Sacrament, meditating with Jesus through his passion, and talking about your own passion does not meditate. A soul that does not endure a corporal mortification, it would be difficult for you to go to heaven. As what Saint Jose Maria Escrivá would say, if you want to know Christ, you need to know the passion, his suffering, not the pain, the suffering. Meditate on the suffering he did for his unconditional love for us. He endured physical pain because physical pain, when endured and transformed to suffering for love of others, makes a big difference. When you fast, it transcends also a different type of mechanism, different neurosignal that increases your metabolism, suppress appetite, and increases your microbiome that is good in all together that will be good for your health. Fasting also does. All of these helps the microbiome to produce neurotransmitters that will help you live a very healthy life, also for the mood and for your attitude. If you like this video, please make a comment. We can discuss. For the next video, we'll be talking more topics about medicine and faith. Thank you very much. This is Dr. Raul Enad from Cadenza Medical Clinic, Ave Maria, Florida.